the word to Minister Jeannette Ballier. She is Regional Minister for European and International Affairs, among the others, in Sweden and in the Netherlands. And she is also one of the member of ECRN. Minister Ballier, please, please, I leave you the floor. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much and congratulations on this conference. I think it's a very important topic, so I'm very pleased that I can open this conference. As mentioned, the Regional Minister of South Holland, of course, we host the largest port in Europe, the Rotterdam industrial area in our region, so we're very proud of that. And I was rapporteur for the Committee of the Regions on the industry policy, and I think, well, we did a good job in discussing the possibilities for industries in the future of Europe. And as we all know, I think this is obvious, but we believe that chemicals are, of course, an essential part of many products and services that modern society makes use of. And so therefore, it's very important to talk about the future of the chemical industry. Of course, the chemical sector faces important challenges regarding the energy transition and other transitions like circularity. The sector has expressed to have an ambition to become 100% circular, and there are many opportunities, of course, for the chemical sector. And I'd like to name a few. More selective chemical conversions, which also produce fewer or no byproducts, are a first step in reducing the use of raw materials. It's first of all, of course, trying to reduce the use, but also in another way. Technologies that limit the use of raw materials and the production of waste are, of course, very important to look into, and is, of course, what the industry is already working on. But sustainability and renewable raw materials are also more and more becoming a part of the input of the chemical processes, like the bio-based economy. And it can be a raw material for bulk chemicals, fine chemicals, and specialities such as plastic additives. I think it's very important that we use these steps to a more renewable and a more sustainable future. So new chemicals also being introduced, special production of biomass, but it's also looking what kind of materials can we use. So this is a search that the sector is looking for. And there's, of course, a strong link that we are making in also with the agricultural sector. But of course, that is the link that many of you participants do have. What is now the reason why I, in the report on the industry policy, also focused on regional cooperation, the importance of involvement of regional governments and regional clusters, because we are more and more talking about European networks like the ECRN and the EU Industrial Forum. And it is important that we meet each other and speak with each other to find solutions for the future. The analysis, the risk that we need to take, and to get a more industrial ecosystem within Europe, and the regional ecosystems and the enterprises, the entrepreneurs and the innovation can be combined from a regional perspective, although of course we know the sector is an international sector. So it is very important that we as regions, with the businesses, are involved in regional innovation strategies, and to make sure that we enable cooperation between those regional ecosystems. Of course, first of all, I always say business do it themselves, but we can help as regions to do so. And it is also some of the things that the Commission, the European Commission, is more and more asking for cross-border European cooperation. And this is what we as regions emphasized in the industry policy report. So it is very important that we have a matchmaking in the individual level, but also through Enterprise Europe networks and clusters like yours. So on the point of the importance, of course, of the chemical sector, I've already said a few words. But we've seen that through the COVID measurements and through the discussion on COVID, there's even more a stronger need to get as clusters and as industries together and see how we face the future for Europe as well, and will be less dependent. Although I always say this industry particularly is of course an international industry, but how can we assure and keep the production and also of course the bringing recyclable materials together also on the European level. So improve the security of supply, shorter supply routes, and also a more domestic production through recycling. This is, of course, one of the challenges that we face. So if I may conclude in that sense, because I am here in the Netherlands here in a budget meeting as a regional minister of finance. You know how important that is. But I think we should look as sector and governments how we can bring this regional cooperation further. Because the challenges that there are, the energy supply, but also the circular economy, how can we truly bring that together so that we on a European level also see a future for, and I see the future for this industrial cluster, for the chemical industry. But we have to think of what is the next steps, what do we need? We see a lot of things happening, but what do we need in this regional cooperation? So I hope that this is some of the discussions that will be there during the conference, and I wish you all the best during the conference. And thank you so much for allowing me to address you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister Ballier. Thank you very much for your input. We will start from the point you gave us. And I wish you the best for your budget session, because I know it always very hard job to reach the goal in this period. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So now, as you heard, Minister Ballier was in a little bit hurry for a very important in regional commitment. Now I give you a short introduction of the conference after this very, let's say, illuminating opening speech by Minister Ballier. First of all, who I am Folco Ciulli. I'm the executive director of the European Chemical Region Network, which you will see right after my introduction what ECRN is, a European network born back in 2004. And we are here today for this conference on the region as a key players in the transition to the sustainable and circular chemical sector. But I would like to mention and thank the International Sustainable Chemistry Collaborative Center, which is the very important German organization that started this first Global Sustainable Chemistry Week and host us, as you can see in my back, as one of the event of this very important brand new conference or week devoted to chemistry. Just some brief information. We will have three different panels, as you saw from the program. One is starting from our experience in the S3 platform for industrial modernization. When I say us, our experience, meaning ECRN was the initiator and the manager of the thematic area on chemistry in the S3 platform for industrial modernization. And we will show two projects that we have tried to bring in, to work on in the platform. Then we will have, and we are very honored to have them, two very important presence from the European Commission. One is Director Ulla Engelmann. She is director in DG Grow, and she will give us an overview of what European Commission think about, let's say, networking among regions and industry to boost the recovery of our economic system, in particular in the chemical sector. And then we will have Ms. Monica Gigri, head of unit in DG Regio. She will help us to understand the future of the interregional cooperation, in particular this new instrument DI3, and we will hope, I'm sure we will have an overview more clear of what's going on. And then we will have the presentation of two project to be, let's say, from two other regions that are working very hard in two different areas of chemistry, but for sustainability of chemistry. Technical thing. After any panel, I would like to have a short Q&A session, 5 minutes due to the constraint of times. The instrument allow us for a moment only to have, let's say, chat with non-panelists. So if you write me on the chat, if you have any question, write me on the chat with your name and your role, and I will give the floor after at the end of the three panels to the three first that register for asking a question. Sorry to be so strict, but we have not a lot of time. And now I ask my colleague to show us this 2-minute video on what ECRN is. Thank you very much.
The chemical industry plays a crucial role in enabling a carbon-neutral, resource-efficient, and circular society. As chemicals are present in 95% of products, improving the sustainability and safety of chemicals is indispensable to deliver the European Green Deal and build the competitive and sustainable economy of the future. The European Chemical Regions Network, ECRN, brings together European regions in which the chemical industry plays a crucial role in economic development, growth, and employment. Originally created as an EU Interreg project to facilitate interregional cooperation and share knowledge and solutions, today the network has grown to a recognized European chemical stakeholder. ECRN advocates for a stronger regional dimension in European strategies and policies related to the chemical industry. We believe that the chemical industry can effectively respond to Europe's societal challenges with sustainable and innovative solutions if its economic growth is linked to territorial development. ECRN participates in public consultation, elaborates joint positions, and represents regional interests at EU level, shares technical knowledge among regions and stakeholders, facilitates interregional cooperation by fostering collaborations among local authorities, gives support with European projects. Our vision is the creation of a Europe-wide network of chemical regions where competitive, sustainable, and innovative European chemical value chains are built on cooperation, sharing, and joint actions. Our policy priorities: plastics and chemical recycling. ECRN facilitate interregional cooperation to advance research and development of innovative solutions to halt plastics waste, and brings the latest innovative technologies developed in ECRN members' regions to the attention of the EU. ECRN raises awareness on the role of sustainable chemistry and regional bio-based production in the EU bioeconomy, which have enormous potentials to replace fossil fuels, reduce energy demand, pollution, and waste, while increasing the reuse and recyclability of materials and products. ECRN means increase regional dimension in the EU policy agenda, give single voice to the chemical region's interests, Foster interregional cooperation. Improve regional development strategies. Create regional partnerships.
So now I hope you have a better vision of what ECRN is. Let's start with the technical part, and I start. I I'm honored to call him with a friend, Mattia Dani. Mattia is an Italian entrepreneur. He is, among the others, CEO of Noval Chimica, a member of the board of the chemistry group of Asso Lombarda, which is the industrial association in Lombardy. Mattia worked together with us in the thematic area of chemistry on the S3 platform for industrial modernization, and we reached the final goal with this project because we arrived to present the project and to win the technical assistance facility. That is one of the instruments that the S3 platform gives to regions and industry to try to let the project become reality. Mattia, thank you very much to being here, and I leave you the floor to present us your amazing project.
Thank you, Falcon, and thank you to ECRN for the support that it has been provided. It has been very useful for us. As Folco said, I'm an entrepreneur, and among other things, I scout for, let's say, interesting idea. So I'm here to present the project that I started at the beginning years ago as a business angel. So the project started as an academic project at Politecnico di Milano, which is our polytechnic institution. So I'll try to go as fast as possible so as to leave time for the Q&A. I don't know whether you can. Yes, I guess so.
Yes,
Is better? Yeah.
We see the presentation.
So basically, so the agenda, I will explain what we are doing and then tell you why we think it's important for our continent, I mean for Europe, and then what regions could do and the Commission could do for us if they wanted to support us more, and we have already received a lot of support. So basically the vision of our project is to build a world where paper is not made out of trees and plastic is fully biodegradable. So really the academic, let's say, the research team started with as many people with the problem of plastics that we already know, but plastic, we manufacture a lot of them, and I will say the real problem is that this polymer is not in equilibrium with nature. Let's say our planet hasn't developed ways to digest it, to recycle it. So we've built something synthetic, but we created disequilibrium with nature. And it therefore it's crucial to find an alternative because our society is got so used to those products that it's not ready to not use them. So what we are going to do, and this all started. In fact, our analysis started with looking for other polymers. And in fact, the two most abundant polymers on the planet, which are cellulose and chitin, are polymers. They're similar to plastic in their structure, but they're biopolymers. So they're in equilibrium with our planet in the sense that Earth has developed a way to recycle, digest, and then reprocess them. And why we took we address them at the same time, because even if for us they're very different, in fact, from a chemical point of view, they're not that different. It means that the technology that we've developed and we will present later works the same way on both polymers. Cellulose is, if you want, is the structural component of plants. So it's a fiber that gives the structure of the plants. It's a huge market. It's currently manufactured basically from trees. we're speaking of 300 million tons annually worldwide. Europe, and after we'll see it, is a key actor, but in a sense has some weak spots on the raw material. The other, chitin, is mostly now manufactured from shrimps and crabs. So that's a very interesting. Chitin is the structural component of insects, is their exoskeletons. And if you want, has some incredible characteristics in the sense that they are the same mechanical resistance of aluminum, but weights, it's half of the weight, and not only protects them from, let's say, mechanically from from the external interferences, but also protects them from viruses and bacteria. It means that nature over time has developed a plastic, a polymer, that is much better than what we've been able to do so far. So if you want, it's better from any point of view. The only problem that we have now that only insects can manufacture it. We have no way to synthesize it. So the idea of what we are going to do with that. Both these polymers, it means both cellulose and shrimp shell have a lot of drawbacks in their production. In the case of trees, it leads to deforestation. So because we use them from forest, their production is inherently land limited. They're energy intensive, the process they're polluting, and in the case of chitin, it's so polluting that basically it's impossible to manufacture them, let's say, in advanced jurisdiction, like in Europe and in North America, or very difficult because we wouldn't be able to accept the downside of the production. It means that basically the entire world production and is in Asia now, where let's say environmental regulation is less strict. So what are the strategic challenges? I think why Europe should be interested in that. So in the case of cellulose, and this is one of the reasons why there is so much interest on our project, is that even though the demand for cellulose is steadily growing for two reasons. First of all, it's a basic material, so it grows as cellulose demand grows as global GDP, more or less 4 or 5% per year, like global growth. But not only that, our fight towards plastics is increasing the demand for cellulose because most of our strategy, even the EU, is to substitute plastic, disposable plastic with other disposable material, typically paper-based materials. So basically the fundamentals of the cellulose market are very strong, but there is a problem. Supply, because it comes from forest, is inherently land limited. So at a certain point, there won't be enough raw material. And this is what is creating interest and also worries, no? Because we are not only speaking of possible steep price increases, but also of lack of resources availability. And even though Europe is a key player in the cellulose market, in the sense that if you want, it all started here, especially in Northern Europe, mass production of cellulose and paper, and we still have most of the high value added industry. So we are both importer and exporter. So we are really key. If we look from a strict raw material point of view, we are on the weak side in the sense that we are small compared to Asia and North America. So our technology, in fact, could has the potential to unlock an alternative feedstock for cellulose. It means not manufacturing cellulose from trees, but manufacturing it from other biomasses, typically citrus waste, brewer spent beer, or even grass, because we are working on that as well, with the goal of substituting up to 20% of the production. So we are aiming to manufacture up to 20% of cellulose using not trees, biomass that can be produced at that point locally in Europe by our farmers. In fact, they're already produced and wasted, if you want. So that's the idea. And when we say 20%, is that because we already have early adopters that proven that our cellulose can be mixed in let's say virgin cellulose, so-called virgin cellulose, up to that point without creating any technical issue. So we cannot tell the difference on the end product. As for chitin, I think that the challenge for Europe is even larger. We are totally behind. So chitin and chitosan are among the most interesting biopolymers. They have a host of possible applications from agriculture, food processing, water treatment, bioplastics. We are lagging behind not only compared to Asia, but also North America. The reason to compare to Asian is that the current manufacturing processes will not be considered acceptable. So basically, shrimp farming is highly polluting. Also, chitin extraction is done now in Asia, and I put a picture, no, with processes using strong acids and bases. With process wouldn't be considered acceptable here. But there's demand in Europe. So basically estimates of imports from Europe from Asia are in the billions euros. So we are looking at the process where we have absolutely no sensible production in Europe because of environmental reason and also regulatory reason. On the regulatory side, in fact, North America is more advanced than us. So it allows the utilization more than what we do. What we can do, what we want to do, in fact, our process allows for sustainable large scale of extraction of chitin. So the idea is that rather than importing it from Asia, where it is manufactured in a not acceptable way for us, we have the potential to substitute in the entire import of, so to become independent on this. Using what? In fact, there are two nascent industries in Europe. One is closed loop shrimp farming. There are very interesting startups in Spain, Germany, where shrimps are farmed in closed pools near Munich. No? So there is a startup selling Bavarian shrimps, and it works very well, in fact. Or using insects. In this case, we are looking at the insect exoskeleton. So even there is the largest industry, the insect industry in Europe nowadays in France. So, and that just to highlight you what are the challenges we are facing and why regions are important. If we want to do this, we need to build really an European supply chain, and that's part of the challenge that we have, and that is where I think regions could be really helpful. So just to go back to our technology, basically what we are doing, the idea is that we try to use biomasses, this is classically circular, that are not being used by or that are wasted. You know? In this case, agri-food biomasses. We've developed a process to recover them. And it's basically a process based on a new class of solvents, which is called deep eutectic solvents. In fact, deep eutectic solvents are studied a lot. And if you want, there is a class of material that is being mapped. There's a lot of solvents against a lot of applications. And if you want, our team has been, let's say, I normally say lucky and good to spot the right, to application versus the right solvent, But there's a lot of people working on that. So basically, it's simply a solvent that is made out, in our case, feedstock for chickens. Okay, so it's the solvent itself. It's environmentally friendly. It's renewable. It can be reused many times. And at the end of the day, we extract cellulose and chitin with a negative extraction process. It means that the solvent extracts, mixes everything except cellulose. And so we extract cellulose and chitin in a negative way. So in this moment, basically, we are trying to address the two markets, what we call the tree-free cellulose market. So paper manufacturers that are interested both in not using trees for sustainability reason, but also to find an alternative feedstock because they fear that in the future there won't be enough trees to manufacture all the cellulose that we need. And in the case of chitin, we are targeting chitin in Europe is already used for pharmaceutical application, but we are targeting really mass application, which is for organic agriculture or water treatment and eventually bioplastics. So in this case, we are targeting water treatment because chitosan is a natural flocculant, so it can be to treat water in a way that is non-toxic. So, and this is in fact the main use in the United States now of that product. So basically, that we have the classic, let's say, B2B renewable circular economy model. So we buy biomasses from the agri-food industry, and then we sell our products, so chitin and cellulose, to the paper and pharma industry or the water treatment industry, and then we create value for everybody. Where we are at, we are out already from the lab phase, so we are in the pre-industrial pilot because we are near completion of what we call market validation. And this is what we have done, by the way, with TAF, and I'm going to speak especially on market validation in 2 weeks for them. So we've been able to engage an early adopter, let's mean a large European paper company that does, if you want, we are validating products. So we've manufactured cellulose, they've tried it, they said it is okay for their production. So we are basically scaling up, say, the production. So we are running larger scale trials to see whether when we improve scale, the concept is still verified. But we are already doing it in an industrial setting. And so we expect incorporation of, let's say, our project, because so far it has been a cooperation between my company, the university, and various institutions as an independent company in the next quarter, in fact. So we're going to spin it out. So as IP, we have 5 patent applications. So we are running all the IP process globally, in fact. As said, we've received a lot of support from many institutions, including the European Commission. We've already engaged with, let's say, Capital Partner. 360 Capital Partners is a French-Italian early investor fund, venture capital, which is supporting us. And basically, we expect to, in a sense, go to market in the next, we hope, again, in the next months or let's say years. Clearly, one of the challenges that as a chemical entrepreneur, I say, as startups for us, they're very difficult in the sense that they're costly and the time is longer. We need a lot of patience. This is not about making an app in a garage where in 6 months you know whether it works or not. In our case, it can be years to wait. So we really need patient capital and a lot of, let's say, long-term vision to do that. So that's what I want to say. And so thank you, Folco, for, again, and the ECRN for the support and for allowing me to explain what we are doing.
Thank you very much, Mattia. Just 2 short remarks before giving the floor to Dolores. One is, I think, a very important history because Mattia mentioned 2 or 3 times the collaboration with the Polytechnic of Milan, but the very important thing that he, in my opinion, on purpose didn't mention is that the institute that he collaborate with is the Giulio Natta Institute, which is probably the most important chemical institute in Italy because it is where plastic was invented 60 years ago. So we are now doing in the same place with, let's say, the son of the plastic inventor, the new plastic, fully biodegradable and in line with with the future trends. And another thing that I want to mention, not being a technician for chemistry, is the most important thing I see. This project is raw material production project with a short and internal market supply chain. And this project start far before COVID pandemic and COVID problem. So they at that time before COVID pandemic, Mattia and his group was looking for what the Commission is asking since the start of the pandemic, and to have a short supply chain, and we have to produce basics in Europe. Then maybe we could hear something on that from the European Commission. Thank you very much, Mattia. Can I ask you to took off your presentation so I can leave the floor to Maria Dolores Núñez Sanchez. She is manager in Axio in Catalonia, and now she is going to show us the project she is trying to bring on within the S3 platform. And this project, as she will explain, is a project on interregional hub for flow chemistry. Dolores, I give you the floors. And sorry, I remember, register yourself if you have a question for Mattia, and now after the intervention for Dolores. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, good morning. Hello. Hello, good morning, and thank you very much for inviting us to participate in this session and to share our experience. I'm afraid our experience is not so. I'm afraid our experience success that Lombardy region, but I think also it's necessary to explain different sides of the experience. Well, my name is María Dolores Núñez, and I say Folco. I am a chemical engineer and a doctor in material science, and I currently am team leader for analysis, technological analysis and opportunities in Axio. And Axio is the competitiveness agency of the government of Catalonia. Well, in 2018, we joined the S3 chemical platform, and because chemical industry is a very important sector in Europe, but also in Catalonia, and we participate actively in the four working groups related to alternative feedstock, polymers, chemical recycling, and sustainable process technology. And we lead chemical process technology. And during the months in the working group, we try to find some different projects with different approach and different scope, and related to sustainable chemistry. And finally, we chose flow chemistry. Well, flow chemistry is the development and study of chemical reactions where the reactants are combined by pumping fluids, including solution reagents, and with no rates and control temperatures and pressure. Why we try flow chemistry? Well, first of all, this was a decision by consensus of different stakeholders and different regions, and this is because flow chemistry is an innovative technology. It means a paradigm shift from the batch production to another kind of production, much more flexible and much more faster and safe. In this case, we can we can provide business access to to this new technology, and we can apply this technology in emerging fields such as personalized medicine and nanomaterials. And also, this technology can facilitate the reindustrialization and relocation of companies and chemical process in Europe because it's much more green and faster and safe. Well, the proposal of our project was create this flow chemical for interregional for this flow chemical interregional hub based in 4 ACEs and with different geographical nodes. The first one was a pilot plan for process development. In this case, it's not necessary to be a GMP. It's just to start to prove different regions and different on different reactions with different catalysts and so. The second was to create a node for a demonstrator of processes and scale up the processes. In this case, could be interesting to have GMP plants in order to do some reaction related to pharma industry or clinical trials. And another point was a resource center in order to coordinate the management of the demonstration process plans and the payload plans to manage also all the financial aspects, the promotion, legal and regulatory framework, accreditation of technology providers, also for training and skilling reskilling chemical workers, and also to make the contact with the good investor. And the last point was to create a business accelerator in order to promote the creation of new companies, in order to creation of new apps related with this technology or with complementary technology. Well, we start to talk with different regions, with different agents, companies, and so. But I have to say we have no great success because we have not the necessary commitments to carry out the project, and at this moment the project is stopped in order to rethink the the project. The main bottlenecks we find is, first of all, the identification of business model, probably because we start with a very broad or very ambitious idea with different points, pilot plans, demonstration plan, and so, and with different business model, and it's difficult to find or to identify a global business model. This the financial problem was the other point, at least for the first steps of this of this idea. Legal aspects and also intellectual property aspects, how manage this point was and also a bottlenecks. The international dimension, how to involve the different regions in the project. Despite there is some interest in different regions, but how to manage and how to integrate all these aspects and how to involve private companies. The most of the answer we said we heard was well, I'm very interested in this technology, and this project is very attractive, but I want to wait to see how it would work, and then I will put on it. Well, um, um, for us, making and some reflection with this, I think that probably we move very quickly to find a big project, a bankable project. This is a very ambitious project, and we let aside other kind of project, perhaps smaller, or perhaps to address to another kind of instruments in the European community, like Horizon or something like this. But this kind of a smaller project could be help us to create the necessary trust and the network between all the stakeholders and the regions to um, and to empower the stakeholders to make another step and another kind of committee. Um, Also, the lack of financing, directly financing in the first steps was also a problem with us. It's difficult to change the system when more of the companies, technological centers or research center used to work with a grant from the European Union, and in this case, it's not. It's first make the project, and then we will find some financial resources, and making also a self-criticism. We have to rethink the role of the region. In our case, we think that regions could be the catalyst and facilitator, but not the leaders in our, and lead the leader to the public initiative, and also involve more clusters and business association. Well, nevertheless, I also think that platform could be a good scenario to develop this kind of shared projects um, to face the challenge all the region have in in chemical sector, but probably we come to change some dynamics. First of all, work more the contact between the different stakeholders and the different regions, just to create this kind of trust to be able to make another big project. Another is to find funding instruments just as the beginning of the project, at least to make the first step of the project, and and create the adequate instruments to make all the to I don't know how to say, to make all the steps to make finally this kind of ambitious and international project. Well, 2020 was a year of disruption for chemical industry, and particular in general, and in particular in Catalonia. Chemical industry has played an important role to fight against coronavirus and the production with the production of disinfectant, diagnostic reagents, and so uh, the turnover it was increased, but also has been exposed to global and complex supply chain breaks and decline the markets such as automotive, construction, among others, coupled with the recent energies is challenge for the chemical industry. Other challenge the chemical sector had to face is the first of all is the acceleration of the process of the carbonization of the economy, and the chemical industry have to find the opportunities in this area to apply and diversify technologies and products with better efficiency and the use of resource, new raw materials, the use of resources, water and waste treatment, and transformation the waste and byproducts into new materials. The other challenge is the volatility just of the raw materials, and this is a challenge, but also is an opportunity for chemical recycling technologies and to be and circular and bioeconomies and the use of these circular materials. The other is to strengthen the value chains and bring value chains closer together to make them there is also an opportunity for the reindustrialization of Europe. The other is the digital transformation, and that's mean the redefinition, the processes, and the introduction of new technologies much more efficient. And finally, the talent, the attraction of young people to this science and to this industry, and maintain the chemical knowledge. Well, just to finish, the chemical industry in Catalonia is strong. We had more than 1,000 companies in the chemical in the chemical sector. That's mean, and with a turnover more than 18,000 millions euro. That's mean more than 40% of the turnover of chemical sector in Spain. Is the first export sector in Catalonia and the third sector manufacture Catalonia behind food and automotive. And this is a image of our value chain of the companies, different companies in Catalonia. We have a complete value chain from raw materials with some petrochemicals, basic and specialist companies. We have a mix from big, large multinational companies, but also SMEs and startups, and also we have some research and technological centers to support this sector. Well, for the next period, we in Catalonia and also in Acció, we want to continue support the chemical sector with the traditional instrument we have, such as innovation project, collaborative innovation project, voucher, digitalization program, and so on, but also to support some specific initiatives like Hydrogen Valley of Catalonia, the Battery Hub, or Carbon Recovery Project that there are included in the next generation of Catalonia, and where chemical industry is the protagonist of this project. Well, from the point of view strategic and economic, chemical industry is a very important thing also for Europe and for Catalonia, and we don't can imagine Europe or Catalonia without chemistry. So we have to support them. Thank you very much for your attention, and that's all for my side.
Thank you very much, Dolores. Your words in the conclusion, I can and I would like not only to underline, but I want to sign for them. Chemistry could be one of the backbone, not only for the recovery, but for sure for the sustainability of the not only the European industry, but all of all the we have a commissioner for the European way of life of something like that. And the new European way of life must be supported by green chemistry because always chemistry or chemical sector is seen as the bad one. But most of most of the people doesn't know that is probably the sector that gives most to the greening of our economy after the 70s or the 80s, where we had problems, starting from Italy, where I come from, with leakage of chemical things and so on and so forth. But thanks not only with the national legislation, but in particular to European legislation, comes to my mind the Seveso directive right after the big problem we have in Italy. Europe and member states and industry started a greening path for the chemical industries, and that is very important. And as I said, for the project of Mattia Dani, the BREX project, for sure, raw materials in a continent where we do not have can be done thanks to a very high level of chemistry industry and investment in chemistry. Right before giving the floor to the European Commission, as far as I can see, there is no question, but I would like to underline a couple of things that comes to me from these two intervention. And the first is the lesson learned. Lesson learned, we have these two projects, and Dolores said region cannot be the initiator of such a kind of project. We as region, we could be the collectors of the idea, but then we need industries. In fact, the difference between the Mattia project that succeed and the Catalan project, which will succeed, is that the BREX project was thanks to the work of Lombardy region and Asso Lombarda, but brought forward directly by an entrepreneur and an industry. The Catalan project was brought forward by a regional agency. The role is very different. So, and that is something for the Commission. Regions, we are ready to help and to, let's say, yes, to have the back of the investment, to make the best framework, to put everybody in contact, but then let us involve directly industries in order to make this project. And I agree with Dolores, we have to think about the average dimension of industries. Because one of the problem I saw in the first part of these S3 for industrial modernization and the, let's say, project financing or whatever, is that we started with, I mean, European Union started with the big project idea, meaning not less than 5 million euros, but the average of the industries in each and every sector, not only in chemistry, are very are smaller than 5 million euros. Many times 5 million euros is the annual turnover of the average industry in the chemical sector, and not only in the chemical sector. So we need to be helped by the European Commission to be able to do project for the size or the average size of our industries. Another, let's say, stone in the pond is SME instrument. If we would have had the SME instrument still viable in the last 2.5 years, as it was at the beginning in the COSME program, probably we could have had many more concrete project. That was the good size. I know there is something very similar in Horizon 2020, and there will be in Horizon Europe, but it's a little bit harder to use it for average industries in Europe. So let's think together. We are ready to help to see if there is something, if there's something we can do on that. Then we will hear about the I3 project. And just to give, because this session was devoted to the activity and to the achievement of our thematic area in the S3 platform, we had the BREX project we have mentioned. We have the flow chemistry project that we have mentioned, but we are very proud to say that at the beginning, we had a very important cosmetic company that joined the platform, and then we helped them to find another way to use European framework to develop their project. It was also a, let's say, a recycling project, and we helped them, and that is unbelievable, to apply for a live project. These, and I assure you, and they succeeded, but I assure you, and that is very strange, this big company is maybe the first or the second in the world, and it's European, didn't even know the existence of life. So that is another role that region can play, and we are playing thanks to this platform and thanks to the instrument that the Commission gave us in order to share and cooperate among the region. Now
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm agree with you, and I think that the platform we can find the opportunity to flourish some kind of project and to address to another kind of instruments, and it's because that I believe the platform is very useful to this. So we want to still hard working on this. Okay. Thank you very much for your work.
thank you, Dolores, again. And now we open the second panel, and we have the pleasure and the honor to have Miss Ulla Engelmann, director at DG Grow. And now let's see the point of view and the perspective of DG Grow for the sector and for the role of the region in the sector of chemical industry. Please, I give you the floor, Ms. Engelmann.
Thank you very much, and very pleased to be here with you today. And also very interesting what we have heard by now. And I think if we look at what the COVID crisis has shown us, that is how deeply interlinked our European economies are, and how important the connection across different European value chains and what we say industrial ecosystems are, but also their strong dependence on a strong single market and the external supply sources. So European companies, especially when we talk about small and medium-sized enterprises, SME, are currently facing unexpected disruptions in their supply chain. And they had to adopt new processes, technologies to meet customer expectations, but also to gain or improve skills to cope with the new business circumstances. And at a wider economic level, the EU needed to put in place massive production of innovative products, such as the COVID-19 vaccines, and in relation to chemicals, personal protective equipment. So the cooperation between companies and their networks to address these problems has proven crucial. And like the S3 platform for chemicals and ECRN, you have been practicing this cooperation for many years, and now we can build on this. So that shows the value of this cooperation, and that it should be deepened, and the lessons we are drawing from this crisis and is to look at ways how to be more resilient to future shocks or crises, while also become more sustainable and globally competitive. And for this, the European Commission has adopted the updated EU industrial strategy in May 21, because we had the first industrial strategy in March 2020 together with the SME strategy. But now in this update, we draw 3 lessons from the crisis. The essential need to uphold the single market and strengthen its resistance to disruption. The need to analyze and address strategic dependencies, both technological and industrial, to enhance EU's open strategic autonomy, and the importance of green and digital transitions for the companies. And so, as part of this renewed industrial approach, a greater focus on industrial ecosystems is placed. And we have identified 14 of these industrial ecosystems, and this information about these ecosystems is in the documents accompanying the publication of the updated EU industrial strategy, which was published in May. And these ecosystems allow for a bottom-up approach that it takes to account on specificities of the business model, and they approach the systemic importance of the horizontal and vertical links among economic actors, and also stimulating innovation and helping the SMEs to keep up with the speed of the rapid changes in their sectors. Commission will also continue to support industrial alliances in strategic areas where the alliances are the best tool to accelerate activities that would not develop otherwise. This is also part of this industrial strategy. Alliances complement public-private partnerships and provide a broad and open platform to establish strategic roadmaps and efficient coordination of research, development, and innovation investment plans for technologies, in particular ecosystems. And from the new industrial strategy, we also have, and it was mentioned in the entry speech, the Industrial Forum. And the Industrial Forum consists of a wide array of stakeholders, including industrial representation, member state authorities, NGOs, research institutions, and social partners representing the different industrial ecosystems. And the objective of this forum is to deepen the systemic analysis of the industrial ecosystem and to identify cross-border and cross-ecosystem investment needs and cooperation opportunities. So I really would want to draw your attention to this industrial forum, because the idea of the industrial forum is also to have it as a very wide and inclusive body. So what we have done, because it is set up as an expert group, meaning that is of course limited, but we have come up with a wiki. So if you look for it, it's a wiki for the industrial forum. You can get access to it, and we put on the wiki the work, because we have different task forces within the industrial forum, and there is one specifically on cross-border and cross-ecosystem investment needs. And you have pointed out during your presentations that this is something you are also working on. So I strongly encourage you, this is what we call Task Force 4, to look at what on the wiki what Task Force 4 is proposing, and they also have come up with a list of different funding opportunities. And this Task Force 4 is also including colleagues from other Commission DGs, of course, including also colleagues from DG Regio and RTD. So and you can, as your body or as a platform, you can contribute to the work. You can put your ideas on the wiki. So really use this opportunity and feed in. It is very much about synergies and what can be used. I also would like to point out that additionally what we do in the Industrial Forum, we have also Task Force 2, which is about transition pathways. And transition pathways have been identified in the industrial strategy, that we need to look for transition pathways in the different ecosystems in order to see how we can work together, how we can get the commitment also from the private sector on the green and digital transition, while fostering resilience in a collaborative manner, and be on one hand work on building blocks for these transition pathways, and on the other hand we are publishing on some of the ecosystems already some stuff, working documents on transition pathways. So on one hand, again, look at the wiki. You might, I'm sure you can contribute and have very interesting things to point out in this transition pathways, the general part, the building blocks. But I also would want to use the opportunity to make you aware that we have the transition pathway scenarios for energy intensive industries in public consultation until the 22nd of November. And chemical industry is, of course, of the energy intensive industries. So really, there is a lot where actually right now you can contribute, and from the discussion I have seen, you have a lot to contribute. And let me close with industrial reform to point out that in Task Force 3, we look at strategic dependencies, and there we are also looking at what are supply chain disruptions, which we're experiencing right now in a very different way. So there also, if you say you have solutions, this is something where it would be very good to get your input. Now let me come to the role of networks and particularly clusters, because it is extremely important to use networks like the clusters or the Enterprise Europe network in order also to reach out to the SMEs. And because you said it yourself, even if it's not SMEs, also others have no idea also about what access to finance possibility exists, and therefore we will also have a on the 18th of November under the platform the technical assistance facility, which provides support to the S3 projects in form of expert advice to improve investment readiness. There is a specific conference scheduled on the 18th of November, and I think this might also be very interesting for you. But now, concretely on the clusters, these permit all industrial players active in a specific industrial ecosystem covering critical value chains in one or across ecosystem to connect with a broad variety of actors. And therefore, clusters can play a significant role in economic recovery and long-term economic success by accelerating the twin and green and digital transition and building resilience. We have worked with cluster organizations and their members to promote the development of world-class clusters with competitive industrial value chains across sectors and regions. And you have also mentioned the COSMO program and Horizon 2020, where we promoted European cluster partnerships. And we have now also an involvement over 1,000 cluster organizations registered at our European Cluster Collaboration Platform. And now these cluster partnerships are encouraging the clusters to intensify collaboration across EU regions and covering a wide range of sectors. And we would now want to build on this positive experience and establishing a number of joint cluster initiatives called Euroclusters, so partnerships of cluster organizations which team up with other types of organizations. And with this in mind, we have launched a call for proposal for around 30 cross-sectorial, interdisciplinary and trans-European joint cluster initiatives with a total budget of 42 million. And the call for the deadline of receipt of proposal is out until 30th of November. And we are really looking forward chemical clusters to be part and build strong partnerships with cluster from other member states. So that I have now provided you with some of the dates, and at the last point I would like to say that on 8th of February, the week of 8th of February until the 11th of February, we will have the next edition of the EU Industry Days. And for the EU Industry Days, we have just now published calls on one hand for stakeholder sessions, but also for local events. So we think also there it would be very important that you, as being regionally anchored, to think about what local events can you do and hook up to this then to our EU Industry Days, where we then, the discussions you are having on local level, we will feed in the EU Industry Days. So I strongly encourage you, and the deadline for the local events is the 5th of December. I strongly encourage you also to consider to participate in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miss Engelman. It's too easy for me in front of everybody. We are not allowed, but to candidate ECRN for some event in the Brussels part, but also I really would like to work as ECRN with you in order to see how can we do something at regional level to promote these industry days in the chemical sector. That is very important and interesting. Then we'll come to other points after the intervention of your colleague, Ms. Monica Gigri. As I told, she's from DG Regio. She will give us the overview of this of what DG Regio is going to how is going to approach this new programmation period for the interregional cooperation in this sector, and the I3 program, which all of us we were waiting and we were looking for, and now is reality, so we can better understand how it works. Ms. Zigri, I leave you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let me share my screen. It's all in Italian, but I'm really hoping that being a European, I have the capacity of understanding several languages by now.
Yes, you are
very
perfect. That's perfect. And you have to know that I didn't know before, Italian is the third most studied languages all over the world. I didn't know that,
Oh.
but it seems so that we can, as Italian, I can be a little bit proud, but no, the instrument is gave us by Regione Lombardia, and so the structure is in Italian. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. So thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm very happy to be here. I will, as was already announced a bit, so I will talk about some things that the Commission is doing in order to foster or promote interregional cooperation, at least on the side of cohesion policy. So I will talk about a bit about the thematic smart specialization platforms, a bit about the pilots, and then finally I will also mention the new instrument, the I3, the Interregional Innovation Investments instrument. But before going into those details, I need to give a bit of a context on how cohesion policy approaches these things. So research and innovation is very important, and it's more important than ever in order to foster or promote economic growth. Studies show that 60% or up to 60% of growth is based on innovation, to create jobs, to maintain standard of living, and address the various crises that Europe and the world faces. In addition, we have these societal challenges of the digital and green transition. I think we have made already reference to the European Green Deal, which also require a quick and widespread adoption of disruptive technologies, as well as a broad-based innovation technology adoption across our economy. But in spite of this, there is still a persistent innovation divide that we observe within the EU. And when it comes to cohesion policy's objective is to close this innovation divide. And this is where investments into innovation and research are so important. Cohesion policy, and in particular the ERDF, in many regions is practically the main source of funding for research and innovation. And a final point on this element, the crisis itself, so COVID also risks exacerbating these divides or these differences between the innovation performance of regions, and also the potential for economic growth between these regions within the EU. Now, how cohesion policy approaches this type of financial support is through smart specialization. I don't think that I have to explain what smart specialization is. I mean, you yourself are part of the, the Chemical Partnership is active on the smart specialization platforms, but just to highlight that smart specialization is the guiding principle for investments when it comes to cohesion policy funds. So what we're doing in order to promote these interregional cooperation, and one of them is, as I mentioned, the thematic platforms. Where the thematic platforms are these spaces for connecting and learning from each other for the different actors in the innovation ecosystem. We like ecosystems these days. So within the innovation ecosystems, there are over now more than 180 regions participating or active on these platforms. And in fact, we have around 37, 38 interregional partnerships already active. These thematic platforms are serving very well the exchange of experiences, pulling together experience and the potential of connecting to similar or regions also active in the same smart specialization areas. I mean, the three existing thematic platforms are industrial modernization, agri-food, and energy. These, within the Commission, we do work and maintain these platforms together with the other sectoral DGs. You, as the chemical industry is active on the industrial modernization platform. And just so, because there was we are planning and we are looking into the future of these thematic platforms. First, there are additional platforms that have already signaled that they would like to be established. One of them is on blue economy, for example, but we have also received the interest on the health side. I mean, the point of these platforms is the activity that are on these platforms are addressing the major societal challenges that we face today. And from this perspective, these topical platforms are quite interesting and forward-looking. But for the future, we do plan to have a more complex setup for the or management of these platforms as part of a wider smart specialization community of practice. This we would like to establish in the course of 2022. And I think that some of the partnerships already realized that now we are in an interim period where there are specific concrete experts that are supporting us and keeping these platforms alive and supporting the partnerships in their work. In addition to the platforms, we have also launched a few pilots just to test our ideas on what the partnerships do require, because what we have learned from these partnerships is that while there was a very strong interest in cooperating between the regions to develop common innovation projects, it was really very difficult to move on from beyond networking and planning. And there were also significant barriers that were identified when putting together support from different programs under shared management. And also, as also we have heard during the previous presentations, there were several legal barriers or the question of intellectual property. Based on these experiences with the platforms and coming from these interregional pilots that we run, we designed this new instrument, the Interregional Innovation Instrument. What we are looking at is that it does support the further development as well as the completion of EU value chains, so across the borders. We have seen the chemical sector does have a value chain, and we are looking at completing those in case there are these chain elements that are missing across Europe. You would find in certain regions those assets and those activities that can join into those value chains. Who are these addressed at? We are looking at the whole innovation ecosystem, so the quadruple helix, so research, business, civil society, as well as the managing authorities, which are active in joint smart specialization areas. You have mentioned in previous presentations also that the involvement of business, of industry is very important. And this is why the instrument itself is also mainly addressed in terms of the potential beneficiaries at SMEs, companies, but mainly SMEs. in order to get that part of the ecosystem active in it. How it is implemented, we have delegated the instrument to a commission agency, and it is implemented under direct management. So we are not negotiating in terms of member states and between commission. It is under direct management. So the proposals will be assessed as such, and the grants and the support will be given to these consortia that are applying. The budget for the 21-27 period is around 570 million euros in current prices. And then we have, and then I'll go a bit more into detail on the later slides about how that is dividing in different strands or different type of activities that can be supported. So there are several. So looking at the thematic platforms and the innovation cycle and the pilots and all sorts of other potential sources of funding, when we look at the innovation cycle, for example, Horizon funding, the I3, so this instrument is really trying to move the project ideas towards commercialization and scale up. So it does focus, when it comes to technology readiness level, on closer to market levels. So it is looking at from the technology readiness level 6 upwards. So it does not focus on basic research or particularly on demonstration. It is really towards moving these ideas towards the scaling up and commercialization of these ideas. One of the experiences that we've seen is what was difficult for these partnerships to support and finance was that, for example, it was very difficult for one region or for one company to use existing demonstration facilities in other regions and other countries. So this is, for example, one of the typical areas where this instrument would like to help. So as I mentioned, when it comes to the I3, where we are, so the innovation cycle, the thematic platforms are very active and do support the learn and connect phases. With the pilots, we try to move these with these partnerships towards demonstration phases, and in the I3 would pick them up in order to move these towards the commercialization and scaling up. And for some of these sections, there is always also the potential support from the mainstream programs. We have heard, I mean, there are many tools available across the innovation cycle for partnerships, which some of them are capacity building, some of them are direct funding, but also, as was mentioned by the DG Grow colleague, there are different cluster networks that can support partnerships at the different phases of the innovation cycle, and this is there are also complementarities that can be used, and one of the objectives for the future for the I3 is to look for these potential synergies and complementarities with other tools and funding sources. The I3 itself is an experiment. We will use the first 2 years of the instrument to also gather experience and lessons learned from its use for what it is useful, what are its areas where we can modify the design, and so also as part of these experimentation, we are looking at where the I3 can connect with other types of support for partnerships in order to move on these innovation products and services. And before I finish, so how the I3 program will look like, now the first calls will be launched within the next couple of weeks. We will also have an info day at the beginning of December that will in very detail present the call and the instrument, the conditions for applying, etc. The thematic areas based on the stakeholder consultation, but also based on the input from the I3 expert group, have been defined in a relatively wide way. So digital transition, green transition, that also includes circular economy as well as smart manufacturing. We will see in the future whether keeping these topics wide is helpful, or we would need to be more specific, more narrow in future calls. There are two main strands. One of them is for well-developed partnerships, mature partnerships, and there will be another strand for less developed ones, where also the requirements for the partnerships will be slightly lower, and there is a capacity building element linked to it. So, for example, the presentation that we heard today from Catalonia, for those difficulties, so partnerships that face more difficulties in getting their networks done, and then defining business cases and move along and finding partners and move along and completing their value chains, can find potential support under this second strand. And just to conclude, then on the timing, as I already mentioned, I mean there has been a lot of work done to design and set up the instrument. So the first calls will be coming up quite soon now, and then the first grant agreements we would expect to be signed from mid 2022, and then there will be a second opening or second call also in the 2022 and in the following years. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope this is useful information for your membership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zigri. For sure, it was very interesting and important for us to understand what you are foreseeing and the way DigiRegio is working. As Dolores said before, we really would like to keep on working in the S3 platform together with DigiRegio, with what we have learned in the past. You are helping us to do it in a very, very better way, hopefully easier in the tools, but we will see. We are learning by doing, as every 7 years with the new programmation. So let's work together on that. I would like to give the floor to our colleague Mara Buberman from Northern Netherlands. She has a couple of questions, if I'm not wrong, one for Ms. Engelman and one for Ms. Zigri. So Mara, if you want to take the floor and directly ask the question.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. I have two questions. One addressed to Ms. Engelman. I was wondering about the industrial forum. You said that a broad range of entities can be part of the industry, the member state, etc. But can regions also be member of this industrial forum? And to what extent is regional involvement already happening? And then the second question to Ms. Sigri, I was wondering in terms of the S3 partnerships, whether there is one on circular economy, and that were my questions.
Should I answer right away?
Please.
Okay. Regarding the industrial forum, the membership of the industrial forum in itself, because as it is an expert group, this is limited and set up. But the wiki is open for, let's say, everybody to be part of the discussion, but also to point out if some of the topics are of particular relevance that you can either ask to be, let's say, nominated as an ad hoc expert, or what is even easier, you provide your input directly in the wiki. So that is, we wanted to make it as inclusive as possible. And from this point of view, regions, of course, we are very interested to get also the regional input. And in the different meetings we are having, we are particularly pointing out that we are looking forward to get this regional input. Amongst the members of the Industrial Forum, there is just, to my knowledge, one, the Vanguard initiative, which is composed of different regions. So there is part of the regional dimension, but we are very interested to get much more, because we know, of course, that a lot is done on regional level.
Thanks a lot. And I was wondering, do you have a link of this wiki that we can look at? Could you share it in the chat?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I will have a look at it, but to order to access the wiki, you will have to have this famous European Commission ECAS account, which you can get. So this is a kind of mechanism to be sure that we see who accesses the wiki.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes, on the smart specialization partnerships, what was your question? I couldn't hear the second half.
Yes, I'm happy to say that it is whether there is one on circular economy or whether there's one that being looked at the circular economy. I saw that there is a S3 partnership on bioeconomy, but I wasn't sure if there's one on circular economy.
The list of the smart specialization partnerships on the platforms on the slide wasn't it did not contain all of them. To my recollection, there are circular economy related partnerships also on the platform, but I would have to check very specifically what those are. So I couldn't tell you.
Okay, well, thanks for now. That's enough information, I think.
Thank you very much, Mara. Thank you very much to Ms. Engelman and Ms. Gigri. I now will pass, we are, as usual, 20 minutes later, so I now will pass to the third panel, which is on the, let's call them, I would like to call them the project to be, and anyway, they're still the regional solution for sustainable chemistry. We will have two Dutch projects, one from the Groningen seaport and the other one from Brightlands. So I would like to give the floor to Ms. Ellen van Viek from the Groningen seaport to show us this huge project they are trying to develop.
Hi, thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. I'm trying to get my camera on, but I see I've been blocked there. So just a question, can you hear me and can you see me already?
We cannot see you, we hear you very well.
Okay, good. So I will try to get my camera on, and otherwise I will just present my slides. So I think that's the most important part, that you see my slides, but it would be good if you could see my face as well, of course.
Absolutely, would be
Yeah.
nice, but
maybe if you allow me, I will just quickly log on and off. So I think that maybe that would help in terms of getting my camera ready.
Let's try do this.
Yeah, okay, great.
now we are all thrilled if the old school switch on, switch on, switch off, switch on will work. Let's say
Just trying if it works on my side, but it works. I will wait.
yes, Leah,
I
your system works, and maybe let's see
yeah.
if we continue having this problem with Miss Van Wyk, we could start with your presentation. So we
Well, that's an idea. It's you can see it if it's
yes, let's start. So with your presentation, Leah Vermans, director at Brightlands, the fantastic chemical campus in the Limburg, but at the cross of three very important chemical regions: Limburg, Flanders, and North Rhine-Westphalia. So now I'll give the floor to
yeah,
Leah,
maybe
and
that's
then
easier
we do
to-
with the other presentation of Groningen Seaport. Please,
Okay,
Leah.
thank you for thank you for having me. I'm pleased that I can share what we are doing in the Limburg region on the Gemmelot Circular Hub, as we called it already, the growth accelerator towards a circular environment. It's all about circularity, circular for plastics. So it's right in the midst of what we're doing here with the chemical regions. We have the ambition in the south of the Netherlands to develop the first large-scale circular hub in Europe. We've been working on it with, I think, 70, 80 stakeholders already for a year now, 2 years in advance, because we worked several years. We have to get rid of our industrial chemical region as it is. Don't get rid, but we have to get into transition. That's what I mean, because otherwise it stops. We have a coal mine example as 20 years ago, and that is not what we want. We want to be at the head of the industry. And just as you said, Volko, I fully agree. The chemical industry is the base of all. There starts all of the developments, and that's why the chemical industry has to be in the whole value chain involved, has to move, and that's what we are doing in the chemical region of Limburg. And we're not a small one. The chemical region of Limburg, the Gemmelot Circular Hub, we are in the midst of the largest chemical cluster in the world, in the midst of the ARA region, the trilateral region, between Rotterdam, Antwerp, Ruhr area, and Flanders. So that's a large area, and the trilateral region, that the cross-border collaborations that we have are very important, because we have to see where the critical mass is to get the Europeans transition, the Green Deal aims in place. We can't do it on our own. We have to work together. It's very important. And in this area that we're in the midst of, we talk of more than 314,000 direct jobs in the chemicals. And I'm not talking about the indirect, there are many, many more. And 40% of the European chemical sales is in this area. So it's important. And Gemmelot, Brightlands Gemmelot campus, we have on the premises an industrial site, scaled up commercial, plants, 100 internationalities and 110 companies and factories on the premises. So the chemical site and the Brighton Schemelot campus where the innovation parties are. What we did together, and I very much enjoyed the conversation of the input that Ms. Monica Sigri gave just now, because we're looking for ways. We have built a consortium together with all the partners on the value chain, multi-helix, from industry, from the governments, regional and province, cities and the province, provincial region, the educational partners, the research partners, and civilians. So we made a very multi-helix consortium, and that's we need all of them to get this transition in place. So that, and with all those parties, we established a regional board, a program bureau. We're just trying. It's learning by doing. Nobody knows the way. It's a movement, as we say, that we try to arrange to get the transition in place on circular economy. And we made together an investment agenda for the next 10 years, an investment agenda for the transition for the cost of €4 million, and with flagships, with 20 flagships that we put up together. And that 20 flagships we worked out in a circular economy action plan in projects on the 4 topics: innovation, human capital, fundament, and the region. So that's the process that we're in right now and working out. And what we need, what is crucial for this transition, is in an innovative and creative ecosystem. Otherwise, it won't work. I don't agree fully with Maria that she says it's not the chemistry that has to do this, it's the government or the branches. No, it's doing this together. And that's the most difficult way in working. How do you do this together? And what do you need to on the innovative side? It's not only technology, it's economics, it's social, and rules. So that combination that we need to tackle together. It's very difficult, but very endeavoring and challenging and interesting to do. And that's why we put our hands together. And the innovative ecosystem from Brightlands, we need the R&D platforms, the community, the knowledge and environment to get the place for the chemistry and materials, the circular chemistry and materials in place for the next step. So we're trying, and what we need, and it's unique, is the upskilling and the bottlenecking know-how and facilities. But because we are fully convinced that it's important, not on the academic side, but it's about the scaling up to get the acceleration in the transition on circular economy. The scaling up, that is what we are, that is the phase that we are unique in and know how to work with, from TRL level 6 towards 9, towards the commercializing. That is our aim and our specialization on Brighton Schemelot campus. And that's how we work within Schemelot Circular Hub together. Our program, in short, is on sustainable chemical processes and circular materials designed from and to recyclability. We have put in place that we don't want to work anymore with oil and gas, naphtha, all those fossils we're going to get rid of. We're going to work with plastic waste as a new feedstock, and electrification and bio-based as a new feedstock possibilities. In view of time, our way is that we connect minds, creating the future. So it's about networking, bringing people together, the right people who want to work with us, the coalition of the willing. Not everybody wants to work in this way because it's a bit scary for some. because there we talk about wicked problems. If we solve the one, then the next one is popping up. So we have to be agile and work with creative minds to get the steps together and to go ahead. And why are we doing is we want to secure the future of our region in the Netherlands, preventing the mine closure 2.0, as I just said now, but we want to build and guide and cooperate with other parties in Europe, other regions, because the regions are the place that is the base of this transition. I'm fully convinced of that. If we don't work together within the region, it doesn't work. And then we can connect to other European regions and learn from each other and help each other. And I think that's the way. And the transition we do to combination of technology, money, and social norms, self-sufficient, system integrated, connecting and learning ecosystem. That's important. That's what we have tried to put in place, but we have to learn and we have to see and we want to exchange. And we need the disruptives, the innovative the disruptors, the creative ones to get to our goal. And our goal is developing a new economic branch for the Netherlands and Europe, circular chemistry and materials. Everything comes together in Brightland Circular Space. The approach of integral approach of cooperation across the pillars, and the innovation, the human capital, and circular fundament and society, all working together. And Brightland Circular Space, what we look at that is closing the loop, becoming fully circular from the start, from the feedstock, from waste to the end of the products that are recyclable and come back to our feedstock as feedstock again. In view of time, I will step over to the last slide that is important, because on the premises, Brightland Circular Space is about innovative ways of learning within the closed loop on circularity with plastics, on skid, pilot and demo level, and within the region to connect to other regions, to learn and to see how we can learn from each other, and to create new businesses, of course. And the Horizon Europe call that we applied for, systemic, that's called systemic, the application is that we work with another multiplier of stakeholders across border. So that's the next step from Brightland Circular Space. The next step is systemic, to work with multi-stakeholders with a new governance model where civilians, consumers are very important in the connection. 21 partners are involved in this European call for that we apply for 10 million to get the next step or to come to a commercial demo plant with new feedstock, circular plastics, and we aim for the focus on this project is on circular packaging, how we can do that and how we work together. And a couple of ECRN is involved too in this systemic approach. What we learn from this, we hopefully, of course, and if you could help there, that would be very joyful, but I don't think so, that we get this application. We hear it in May next year if we are in place, but the competition is so heavy, so heavy, but this is the example of new governance, working in networks, and the new governance on circular plastics, how to work together with different partners to scale up. And what we learned for this, we come back and we can amplify on the ECRN platform too. The last question is, how can we help each other? It's rethinking plastic, of course. What else? That's very necessary. That must be done. How can we help each other? You can help us as network to make the connection to the other European regions that are interested and on the same level of scaling up, so that we can accelerate the transition. And of course, rules that are in our way, and how can we help each other there? Because waste must be seen as feedstock and not to get cross-border. That's it's important that we emphasize that those rules are changed. And another one is, maybe I could ask, because I'm working with SPIRE, Process for Planet, on European hubs for circularity too. Can we combine? Can we work together? I don't know, but I know that DG Growth is an important partner in that, and ECRN. Can we see if we connect in some way to be there more? To get the transition quicker in place. I think that's connecting the dots. That's an important one. Thank you. I will continue briefly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leah. Now I hope the technical problems are gone. And so let's try again with Hélène. If we can have the presentation from Groningen Seaport, then now I still see one or two questions from the audience.
I'm trying to get rid of the. So I'm going. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I think right now you can hear me.
Yes, sure.
That's good.
Still not have the chance to see you, but anyway.
Yeah, that would be amazing as well. I changed a lot of settings here, and I think I have solved one of the problems, but now I'm not able to share my screen anymore. But I really want to make sure that I stay in the meeting. Luckily, I have sent my presentation to
we
you.
can share the presentation for you. So,
Yeah, that might be good. Yeah.
Okay.
To make sure that you have the slides. Of course, the slides are the most important.
So can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Well, it seems that Ellen, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can hear me, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think we'll have to do one last option with. Oh yeah, there I am.
Oh, here you are.
Yay.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we can see the presentation and you. That's perfect.
I'm very happy that you can see me. I'm sorry, I always am quite prepared for everything, but I installed WebEx last night again to make sure that everything worked.
Yeah, but
And you should
Ellen,
never do that, because that's
even
always.
if it's 1 year and a half that we are obliged to use this instrument, none of us still able to use it properly. We all
Yeah.
do mistake, everybody and always. So
Yeah.
please go
Yeah.
on. No, now it's
Yeah.
just, now we have
So
lost
I
the
will.
presentation.
Yeah, but I thought I will share it myself so I can go
Okay.
through the slides. I think that's
Wonderful.
more easy than that somebody else has to do that. Yeah, so in the end, it will all turn out well. Okay, yeah, so here's my
Yes,
screen. I think you can see my
yeah,
presentation
sure.
now, and you can see me, right?
Yeah, fantastic and
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, thank you. And thank you, Leah, for being flexible and changing with me in terms of the timeline. Yeah, so welcome everyone. I'm Helen, and I'm Business Manager Circular Economy at Groningen Seaports. But today I will be presenting on behalf of the Northern Netherlands, so not only Groningen Seaports, but the province of Groningen, Friesland and Drenthe. And together we have the brand name Camport Europe. And the most important thing about is that we are a big chemical cluster. We have a port, which is good for the logistics, of course. And we are in Europe. We do a lot of international trade and a lot of international projects. And for us, it's very important that we are part of Europe. We really appreciate that. So we always call that in our name. We think that's very important. So that's why we call ourselves Camport Europe. And today I'm going to talk about our new project. It's an impactful project and it's called Clean North. and it's all about circular economy. So as the Northern Netherlands, we see ourselves as a circular valley, and as a region, we really want to help Europe and the Netherlands to achieve the Dutch circular and the European circular goals of 2050. And to do that, we work together with all different kind of European organizations, companies, and of course, we do a lot of regional projects. And I will tell more about that. So the Clean North. Well, in the Northern Netherlands, we really want to work together, of course. It's very important as a region, if you want to facilitate circular economy, that you work together in a lot of projects. We do that on the governmental side, but also on the technical. We take a very technical point of view, and we work together with the industry. We think that in circular economy, it's important not only to have the quadruple helix, as people call it, but to start with the pentahelix. So we have made a bit of an adaptation on the quadruple helix because we added structural finance in it. We think it's important to work with governmental institutions, companies, industry, education, customers, but also with structured finance. Well, why is that? We see a lot is changing in the circular market. There are a lot of new technologies, new business models. Old business models in the circular economy were all about gate fee, of course, getting money to get some feedstock streams, then apply technology on it and then sell your product. But nowadays, with new technologies, new feedstock streams gain a lot of more value. So nowadays, when you have a feedstock stream like plastics, some companies even are willing to pay to get those plastics because they have new products where they can get a lot of money from when they sell it. So we see a lot of it is changing. Also, when you are going to invest in a new technology, if you are a private equity company or if you are a bank, that's a risk that you are taking, of course, because you need numbers, you need calculations, you need business models. And with technologies that are brand new and that are still only existing on pilot scale, it's always a bit more of a risk to invest in companies. So we think it's very important also from the governmental side to really connect new startups and new technologies to structured finance and to finance companies. And we do that quite actively in the Northern Netherlands. For circular economy, we have a Euro team, and we gather all the circular projects that we have in the Northern Netherlands. We build value chains with those different kind of projects that we have. I will come to that later. And then we apply for finance. It could be with subsidies, with European subsidies, but also with private equity companies and banks, as I said. Well, we do that for different kind of pillars. We have 4 important pillars where we focus on in terms of plastics, polyolefins in packaging, polyolefins and composites in building and construction, polycondensates in packaging, and polycondensers in clothing and textiles. Well, we work together with the NAM, with Circular Friesland, and with Groningen Seaports, but also with all the different companies that we have here who are active in circular economy, and I will show them later, of course.
Can you move up the slide, Celine? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of information at one slide, but that was on purpose. So now we will continue with the other slides. Well, I already mentioned the 4 pillars. Those are quite technical. So if you are going more into buzzwords, we have 3 important subjects that we're focusing on: plastics, textiles, and building and construction. Well, in the Northern Netherlands, we have the National Test Center for Circular Plastics for the whole Netherlands. So we're very proud of that, of course. It's in Heerenveen. We do a lot of R&D and innovation there in terms of research of plastics, what you could do with it, how you could separate it. So a lot is going on there. We have a lot of startups that we work with, not only in recycling plastics, but also, for example, getting plastics out of the water, which is an important theme, of course, in all over the world. We all know the ocean cleanup. but there are different kind of startups that try to get plastics from the water. The Northern Netherlands is next to World Heritage Water Sea, so for us it's very important to keep those waters clean. So we do all different kinds of tests with that. And at the chemical cluster Emmen, and I will give some special attention to this cluster because it's very innovative in terms of circular plastics and polymers. We have a startup, Cure, and they are pioneering in chemical recycling of the more difficult polyester streams. So moving on to my next slide, a bit more information about Cure and about what they're doing. I really recommend people to Google this company because they have quite amazing innovative technologies in terms of polyester recycling. And as you can see in the slide, they don't do that alone, but they work together with different kind of companies in the Northern Netherlands in order to achieve their goals. Then on to building and construction. In the Northern Netherlands, we have a lot of new building projects for industry, but also for housing of our citizens. We have an innovation hub in Groningen. It's called Building, with a capital G, Building in Groningen. And they focus on future-proof construction and infrastructure in the Northern Netherlands. And we see a lot of connections there with circular economy because nowadays new building materials are made from textile waste, from food waste, from biomass. We're all about the bioeconomy here as well. And we see a lot of synergy there with our circular economy proposition and also with the energy transition. And the energy transition, we are an energy hub, is very important for us as well. And we see with all those new building materials, we stimulate isolation, insulation of houses and of industrial sites. And of course, energy efficiency is very important in achieving the net zero goals that we all have. So we focus on that as well. Well, here I have a bullet about Eemshaven being an energy port, an energy hub. We have 8,000 megawatts of installed capacity there. Well, why is that important? It is because of the offshore wind farms that are close to our port and that land in Eemshaven, which is one of the reasons that we have these amounts of energy. And we see a lot of things happening in the offshore wind sector in terms of recycling. So recycling of wind blades, decommissioning of wind blades. The first wind farms that are being built years ago will be decommed in the next years. And we see a lot of synergy there with circular economy as well, of course, because we need to recycle those wind blades and the composites in it. And we have quite a lot of companies like Longterm in Heerenveen, who can make building products from those composites and who also focus on recyclable wind blades. So not only recycling the old blades that we have, but also design new type of wind blades that are much more easier to recycle. So we also have synergy between our offshore wind proposition and our building proposition there. So what are our key selling points, so to say, in the Northern Netherlands? Well, the green feedstock and energy that we have, of course. The recycling companies that we attract, we really want them to electrify and to do their business on green energy. So having a lot of green energy is important. We are a hydrogen capital of Europe. We are in Hydrogen Valley. And we see that hydrogen is very important in greening circular economy as well. I will elaborate a bit more about that later in my next slides. But that is a very important selling point of ours. And the cohesive ecosystem that we have. And I will come to that now. We say in the Northern Netherlands, we are small enough to create an ecosystem that's quick on its feet, but we are big enough to make impact. Well, green energy, reliable green energy is important, of course. We all know about the problems that wind and solar energy give in terms of stable energy supply and congestion management. So we really work on that because our chemical parks and our circular parks, they need a stable energy supply to do their 24/7 business, of course. And we have a lot of agricultural hinterland in the Northern Netherlands, which is good for biomass, but also for biodegradable products and bioplastics. I will come to that later as well. And we actively adapt our energy initiatives to our circular and chemical initiatives via power purchase agreements, but also via direct connections. So that's a very important pillar that we have. So we have a coherent ecosystem. We do a lot about R&D, research and development in our clusters. We have 5 big clusters focusing on circular economy: Wijster, Heerenveen, Emmen, Delfzijl, and Eemshaven. Some of them you can see in the slides. And as I said, R&D is very important here. So we have all kinds of labs, pilot facilities, and demo sites, and we really actively look into attracting startups to our region, but then when they are settled in our region, help them to scale up. So we actively match them to our bigger companies, to our bigger ecosystem, and we really try to innovate the companies that are already there with connecting them to the startups, but also help the startups scaling up and being like a real-time big factory and going to TRL 7 and 8. Well, as you can see, a lot of labs and pilot sites, especially in Emmen. In Emmen, we have the chemical recycling lab, we have the circular plastics lab, a materials lab, a polymer lab, everything that you can imagine in circular plastics, it's there. And we're very proud that we can tell that we not only do a lot of testing, but we also achieve a lot of results. And not very long ago, there was a new breakthrough innovation. I think it might be a disruptive one in a recyclable bioplastic made from malic acid. It's called Savor. I really recommend people Googling this innovation because it's quite a big one. And it's a perfect example of the industry working together with the University of Groningen, with the NHL Stenden in Emmen, also an education institution, of course, and doing a lot of testing, doing a lot of research, but then really achieve a new kind of product that really could be the solution to one of the waste problems. Because if we have bioplastics that's also recyclable and then again recyclable and again usable and recyclable, then of course we are achieving the circular goals that we really want to achieve. But we're not only working on pilot and demo scale, we also have big factories landing in our industrial clusters. For example, Sky Energy. It's a company originated in Amsterdam. They make biokerosene out of old frying fats. They have KLM as one of their shareholders, and they try to green the air industry, which is of course very important in terms of achieving net zero. And they are planning to build their brand new factory in Delfzijl in the next year. Avantium, another company that will be starting in they already started the pilot site in Delfzijl, but they will have their TRL 7 factory in Delfzijl in the next years as well. They also focus on bioplastics. Very interesting company. Coca-Cola is one of their market partners. They really like to have their Coca-Cola bottles made out of these bioplastics, which is good, of course, because with companies like Coca-Cola, we can make a real impact. So another company that we're very proud of. As I mentioned, the bio route, already told about Savor and about Avantium, but we have all different kind of projects with biomass and with bioplastics as a basis. So how does that work, connecting all those companies together? Well, we do that in all different kind of ways, not only with connecting them in terms of financing and in terms of yeah, well, not only the financing part, but also the technical part. So we really are working on a plug and play ecosystem. In the Northern Netherlands, we started in investing in public utilities and private utilities in 2005. So we have all different kinds of utilities available. We have a hydrogen backbone, we have a steam pipeline, we have CO2 pipelines, all different kinds of infrastructure that is very important for companies to avoid having a chimney as much as possible. So we're not only working with companies that recycle in that process, but we also want them to be circular in the park as well. So really try to make somebody else's residual stream to another company's feedstock. And that's something we're really focusing on. So we always want companies to be open and transparent and to work together. That's an important factor that we have. So we really want that from the companies that are settling in our region as well. And we really see that if you are open and transparent in your business, and if you are connected to other businesses, a lot can be achieved. So this is an example of the hydrogen backbone that we are building in the port of Delfzijl. And good to know that the pipeline that we are having there is made from plastics as well. So it's not a steel pipeline, but it's a high fiber plastic pipeline that's a lot more cheaper to put in your park. So it's cheaper in terms of maintenance, but also when you install the pipeline. And in that way, it's of course easier to get that pipeline there and to connect different countries, different companies to each other. So why is hydrogen that important? We say we are a hydrogen valley, and that's one of the reasons that we are good as circular valley as well. We see hydrogen as a very important factor for the energy transition, of course, as an energy carrier, but especially for circular economy and for chemical recyclers, it's important in their technology and in their process as well. I think we have all heard of hydrocracking, hydrogenation. For chemical recyclers, the use of hydrogen can be really helpful in the process in terms of separation and make very pure products. So having a hydrogen backbone is very important for us as an area to fully be able to facilitate those chemical recyclers. So another thing I want to elaborate a bit more on is you can help companies in terms of finance. You can help them with rules and regulations, of course. We actively lobby in the name of, on behalf of our companies. Sometimes you see that new technologies are further than the laws and regulations on that topic. So it's very important to really try to keep the laws and regulations up to date, of course. So finance is important, rules and regulations are important, but feedstock is also very important as well. We actively work with chemical recyclers and with mechanical recyclers, but that's not the only thing we do. We also really try to connect them to feedstock parties and to market parties. So for all those different kind of technologies, we have identified important feedstock streams like steel, like e-waste, like plastics, and we have identified important markets. And what we do is that we actively connect those to each other. So we call that the feedstock technology market principle. And it all comes together in this graph, in this graphic. About like we really want to focus on consumer waste, on industrial waste, on sorting the waste in a good way. So we really focus on mono streams, not only mixed streams, but really on mono streams and cascading those streams into the most pure streams possible, and then mechanical or chemical recycle it in the best way that's possible. And I will zoom in a bit on that. It is, I still have time. Yeah, I will try to speed up a bit because we already delayed, of course. But this one is quite important to show in terms of how that feedstock technology market principle works. Feedstock here in this graph is plastic. Last year, we worked with a company called Impact Recycling. They are from the UK and they are settling in our port at the moment. And they are good in separation of plastics. They separate plastics in pure PP and PE, and they have 2 mixed streams. Well, what we did, we connected them to feedstock streams like mixed plastics. We did that with connecting them to the waste incinerators that we have here, and to connect them to a company called Beck & Verburg. They are focused on shipping waste. They have a lot of different kind of waste streams. Beck & Verburg is a company that separates those waste streams in 118 different kind of monostreams. So they already really are focusing on those monostreams, but then Impact Recycling can separate one of those monostreams, so plastics, in very pure kind of olefins like PP and polyethylene. And what we then did was connect Impact Recycling to Unilever, to Philips, but also to different kind of companies interested in circular furniture. And they are busy making contracts with Unilever and Philips for their pure PPs and PEs. They are busy with chemical recyclers for one of their mixed streams. And they made circular furniture made from ocean plastics with their rough mixed stream. So in that way, we really try to cascade all those streams and get the best out of every different type of waste, so to say. So we really work together. This is another project that we did in the Northern Netherlands, focusing on the time. I will I will go to the end of my presentation, but you will get this presentation afterwards. And if you have any questions on it, or if you want to elaborate further on one of these topics, don't hesitate to contact me. We're really open for working together. So we really would like to elaborate more on that. But I think in terms of time, it's better to do that on a different day. So here also some case studies on what we did here in the Northern Netherlands. So we have quite a lot of circular and recycling companies here already, but we're always looking for new companies, of course. We're always looking for new partnerships all over the world, especially focused on Europe, of course. So if you are interested, don't hesitate to contact me. And I think that's it for now.
Helen, thank you very much. It was really worth to wait your reconnection for such a huge, interesting and important not project, not presentation. It's in my opinion a philosophy, a way you will live chemistry in the next 10 to 15 years. So really, thank you very much. I saw on the chat there is one question. Probably it was for Leah, and she left us, but I would like anyway to give the floor to Mr. Boran Majoub, who asked the question on the chat. Let's see anyway if he has any reaction on the 2 presentations, and then we pass to the conclusions. Let's try to, as you can see, you are not the only one with technical problem. And no, he is left. It seems that Mr. Boran Majoub is not yet there. So now I would have left the floor to President Fabrizio Sala, Regional Minister for Education, University, Research, Innovation, among the others, and he is President of ECRN. Unfortunately, he has been called by our regional parliament at the very last moment, so I have the real pleasure to leave the floor to his spokeswoman, Ms. Valentina Colombo. She will address us with the speech that the President would have done. Please, Valentina.
Thank you very much, Folko, and of course, good morning to all of you. As Mr. Chuli just said, I am deeply sorry, but President Sala can't be with us today because right now, while we are speaking, there is a very important discussion going on in the regional parliament about the health system reform. So he really can't leave the council because he has to vote. And he's really sorry. We are all deeply sorry because he cares a lot about this conference and about the work that there is beyond it. So I'm sorry. But as Mr. Chuli just said, I have this speech that Minister Sala has prepared for you. And I know it's not the same because Fabrizio Sala is way better than I am in this, but if you are okay, I can read it for you. If you can hear me, it's fine. I start reading. It's fine for you. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, as ECRN president, it has been an honor to organize this conference today in the framework of the first Global Sustainable Chemistry Week. I would like to thank the International Sustainable Chemistry Collaborative Center for having chosen ECRN as one of its partners in this very high-profile international event. And I wish it will be just the first of many collaboration opportunities. Let me now thank my colleague Minister Jeannette Ballier for the perfect picture she gave us of the regional role in improving cooperation in the chemical industry through Europe and beyond. Sustainability and circularity, key words for today and key words since the beginning of ECRN. In fact, back in 2004, we were born to help industries in implementing the newborn REACH regulation that we could consider the father of chemical industry sustainability together with Seveso directive. Then in 2009, ECRN contributed to draw the European chemical industry strategy based at the time yet on green pillars. ECRN in 2012 also coordinated the scientific committee of an important study on the sustainability of chemistry and the role of European regions, commissioned by the European Commission. 4 years ago, we started the thematic area chemistry within the S3 platform for industrial modernization, based on 3 main areas: alternative feedstock, chemical recycling, sustainable process technologies. Speaking about the S3 platform for industrial modernization and the CRN job within it, I would like to thank Casso Lombarda and Brightlands for the support they're giving us as technical coordinator. Today, you have heard how important is the interregional cooperation from the point of view of both the industries and economic actors in general or the regional authorities. COVID pandemic taught us that shortage in raw materials, in particular basic chemicals component, could be and will be more and more a huge problem. If we want to mitigate such a problem, we need to reshore production, and we need to do it by developing cooperation at research, industrial, and legislative levels. The example given by Ms. Nunes, Ms. Van Wyk, Ms. Vormans, and Mr. Adani, and by the way, I thank them all, showed us challenges, achievements, threats, and solutions possible only in the framework of interregional European cooperation, and thanks to what EU Commission put in place in the past. About the Commission, let me thank Mrs. Engelmann and Mrs. Sghiri for their presence and contribution. The commitment of DG Growth in pushing industrial ecosystem to collaborate across Europe, and on the other side, from DG Region in stressing the importance of S3 within any regional operation plan, helped strengthen the interregional cooperation at industrial level in the last 7 years. Now, I would like to ask the Commission a further engagement. We, the regions and the economic system Europe-wide, need easier rules and instruments to implement sustainable and circular strategies for the green transition. In fact, Chemistry is one of the most relevant factors to succeed in this challenge, and that will be able to change the life of our children and generation to follow, allowing them to live in a rich, productive, but healthy and sustainable world. Thank you very much, and I hope we can see in person next time. Thank you very much all.
Thank you, Valentina. I would like to conclude this interesting and important conference today by, first of all, thanking once again ISC3 for having asked us and hosted us in such a very important event. I want to mention Ms. Baker, which is connected with us and representing and organizing all the conference in this period. But last, only because so everybody can remind them as the most important actors for the success of this conference, I would like to thank my colleagues in ECRN, Saverio Papa, and in particular Monica Banca, for all the huge work they have done in organize the conference. I finish now the conference. I thank you all very much, and I hope to see you very soon in person, finally, to start again an old style life with what we have learned and with the help of chemistry. Thank you very much.